Hello and welcome to Calls. This is the 2022 Valspar Championship DFS Tactics show. Probably with a little bit of March Madness, let's be honest. Great show planned for you all. It's going to be a lot of fun. Valspar DFS, we're going to see if we can find ourselves a winning lineup, figure out our strategies and our top pivots and fades and whatnot. But also, March Madness starts tomorrow, so hopefully we have some winners there too. Win your bracket pools or at least some bragging rights with your friends and family. There have been quite a few more field changes. Off the top of my head, I believe Paul Casey, Sebastian Munoz, and can't remember the third one now. But those two have withdrawn. I believe that was yesterday. I have not seen any further withdrawals today. So if you know of more, feel free to post it in chat or in the comments. But with Fantasy National, they've got most of the field updated, so not a lot to worry about there as we move on into the show. We got a lot to get into, so let's not waste any more time. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. It is simply the best tool out there. Go check them out. It is well worth your investment. I would not be able to do any of what I do without them. So shout out to Moose and the Fantasy National team. It's simply the best tool out there. In the description of the video, there are links to my social media where I post my betting cards. I will be doing that shortly after the show tonight. For the Valspar, I always post some interesting research or some questions leading up to the tournament. And you get some bonus material this week as I will be putting two brackets up, kind of my calls version of what I think will happen, and then a fun one. And you'll see the title of that one when I post it. So fun stuff there. Make sure to give me a follow. And also in the description of the video is an email to reach out to me if you want to be a part of bonus content. This includes things like bonus videos, my tournament fact sheet, which I send out every Wednesday, listing my best bets, best wagers, top pivots and fades, DFS plays in general and whatnot. So if you want to be a part of that content, make sure you reach out to the email in the description. And then finally, I alluded to it earlier, but we are live. Chat is open. We mentioned that I'm going to have some March Madness. You'll see my fandom here in a bit, but jump in chat and let's have some good-natured trash talk with our favorite teams. You all probably see me all the time. I wear my alma mater t-shirts quite a bit in D3, so I will always shout out and support my alma mater, Hanover College. So without any further delay, let's figure out our DFS tactics for the 2022 Valspar. Here we go. And as we transition over here to Fantasy National and the mixed condition model that I have made, let me pull up chat. I'm sure there are some flames already in the trash talk going on. By all means, I'm here for it. The mixed condition model that I made for this week, we do have strokes gained total, difficult to par. We have seen that the Valspar and Copperhead course has never played easy in a round, at least not back to 2012. And more often than not, it is difficult. Cut lines here generally around +2, +3. They have never been under par. So that's why I have the 10% difficult here. I really want to put 10% or more than 10% in approach, 15% say, but it isn't warranted this week. It is all about short game. It's all about your putting, which is why this is at 15%. I talked all week how I didn't know if I was going to focus a lot on around the green. I ended up not doing that, but I did put 10% in scrambling, difficult to par. So I just put 10% scrambling. So I've got 25% in short game, and I'm covering that a little bit with opportunities. Opportunities gained on difficult courses. if guys are at least giving themselves a chance, knowing that putting is so key here. It's really the most important metric at Innisbrook. These two in combination are hopefully going to make this statistic not necessarily not needed, but mitigated, and the players that are missing every once in a while, they can rely on the scrambling. So between these three, and especially the putting and the opportunities gained, I just didn't feel like around the green was warranted. So there's 10% in opportunities gained, 10% in scrambling, 15% in the putting, and then 15% balanced out between the par threes, the par fives. We saw that both of those just total were quite important. There might have been a couple of ranges, say the 550 to 600 par fives, the 175 to 200 par threes, but I just decided to just do a full overview of par 3 and par 5 performance, and the par 4s 400 to 450. So instead of delineating which one of these three was most important, I just stuck a full 15% in all of them. So a rather condensed data model, using only 8 statistics when sometimes I can put as many as 12 or 13 in there, but rather condensed. Again, with the wind, I just think it's going to be all about putting. Of course, strokes gained approach, the course is always difficult, and if you're going to be able to score on these particular types of holes. So with the explanation of the data model done, we move to the rankings, and probably no surprise that Colin Lorca was number one. I mean, this is a pretty stacked field by Valspar standards. As you've seen this week, a lot of players just withdraw from the tournament just because of players. The players the week before, even more so this week with the extended run or extended day of the players, the chaotic conditions that those were. This is also kind of squeezed into the schedule between a couple of big events, the players, and then the match play is next week. So a lot of guys just kind of take this week off, or at least usually. So Colin Lorca, number one, and I kind of mentioned vaguely Monday night that I didn't know if this was going to be a course fit for him, especially coming off the miscut. I realized how incorrect as an overarching statement that was. This is a course that forces fairways. It emphasizes very good approaches, two things that Colin Lorca is obviously very, very good at. The putting being so key. Now, he has gotten a lot better, but the putter can still be bulky. He is not the best at scrambling. And the biggest thing, I think, why he struggled at the Players, granted, you see how poor his Bermuda performance generally is. We saw that he was not very good in the wind, at least this past week. And now, yes, different weeks are different for winds and conditions and whatnot. But with the wind picking up again this week at the Copperhead course, I stick to, I think, my general sentiment that he might struggle just because of the wind and the focus on the putting and the scrambling. But looking back on it, to just overarch and just say vaguely that didn't know if this was going to be a good course for Morikawa was just kind of wrong. So with that explanation of Morikawa out of the way, Colin Morikawa, number one in the stat model, number one in the length of the par fours, number one in opportunities gained on difficult courses. He's just number one on difficult courses anyway. I mean, two-time major champion, as young as he is, really needs no explanation. So Morikawa, number one. Terrell Hatton is number two. Hovland, DJ, and Shane Lowry round out the top five. So you can see by the prices, quite a bit chalky here at the top. So no real big explanations needed. Maybe the order can be argued about, but the player is not. I would not think so. Number 6, Sam Burns, defending champion, quite a bit of success here. Maybe surprising that he isn't in the top 5, but he's just he just missed. So Sam Burns 6, Matt Fitzpatrick 7th, Patton Kazire 8th, Gary Woodland 9th, and Justin Thomas 10th. And last week I mentioned that I thought Gary Woodland being 13th was a pretty gross overreaction to his very good Honda, and it turned out to be pretty accurate. And the Arnold Palmer, to be fair, coming off 2 straight top 5s, he just didn't play well. Now, granted, not a lot of people played well at TPC Sawgrass, but I was quite wary of it when I saw the rankings last week, and I'm going to echo those sentiments again. I'm pretty wary of him being 9th in these rankings. Having said that, he does take advantage of par 5s, which are absolutely, you have to score on the par 5s here at Innisbrook. It's about the only reasonable birdie chances you have, and they're not even really eagle chances, maybe outside the first hole. So you definitely have to take advantage of the par 5s. He does that. He's putting well on Bermuda. You can't argue that. The Honda, the Arnold Palmer, he's been putting well on Bermuda. Very good at difficult courses, scrambling on difficult courses. So there's enough to like with Gary Woodland. I just don't think he's 9th. I think this is still pretty high and overreacting to the 2 top 5s since he doesn't have a lot of data. We'll get into Patton Kazire here in a little bit, but I like Patton Kazire quite a bit this week. Seeing him 8th is a little surprising, but I'll get into why I really like Patton Kazire this week. So there's my top 10 and a full look of the top end of my rankings board. Remember, Paul Casey has withdrawn. I know Maverick McNeely has. Sebastian Munoz has. Let's see. I think I have all of the others unstarred as well. Only because I just see it here out of the reach for me. So Doug Gim. Doug Gim was the third one that I had seen yesterday. So of the total players, I believe I've seen 10 total players withdraw from the beginning of the release of the field. It's Kevin Tway, Maverick McNeely, Cameron Young, Patrick Rogers, Brant Snedeker, Joaquin Neiman, Taylor Pendrith, Paul Casey, Sebastian Munoz, and Doug Gim. So those are the 10 that I know of. Again, I checked, I think, early today, maybe around lunchtime. So I haven't seen any more withdrawals. If you're watching live, by all means, please jump in chat and let me know. Or if you don't catch the show live, put it in the comments of players that you know have withdrawn. So let's go through the price board here, and I will bring up the projected ownerships off to the side here. So in the 10Ks, we have 5 players: Justin Thomas, Victor Hovland, Colin Lorca, Xander, and Dustin Johnson. All 5 of these guys are getting used. There is one guy that's middling, I will say, in ownership, but he's still not a pivot for the area by any means. So your number 1 projected owned player is in this range. Number 2 and number 4. Sorry. So Victor Hovland is your projected number 1 owned player. Almost 20%. Makes a lot of sense. Coming off the really, really great Players Championship that he had. He just didn't putt. And that's Victor Hovland things. He gained almost 9 strokes on approach alone at the Players. And then another 4 or 4.5 off the tee. Didn't chip, which he normally doesn't. And the putter is hot and cold. It was cold last week, and he still only lost by, I think, 2 or 3 shots. So projected most owned player, almost 20%. It's chalk I'll lead. I'm going to have some exposure to Hovland. Won't be able to help it. The pivot in the area is, he's not really a pivot for the area. He's just the least projected owned is Xander. Now, to be fair, he is fifth of 5 in my rankings for the 10Ks, but he's 11th overall. I mean, all of these guys are going to be good plays, I think. Again, Dustin Johnson, 4th. He's got great success here at the Copperhead course. That's why I was so high on him at the Players, even though he hadn't been playing well. DJ loves Sawgrass. DJ loves Innisbrook. So you can't discount or throw away course previous course history. DJ's 4th in the model, number 4 in strokes gained total or performance on difficult courses, number 5 in opportunities gained on difficult courses. His irons are starting to come back a little bit. There's a lot to like with DJ. So in the 10Ks, I mean, all of these guys are good plays. Morikawa is the 2nd most projected owned player in the field. So for me, even though he's the projected most owned player, I think I'm going to have to go with Viktor Hovland, number 1. There's just too much to like. The putter is hot and cold enough that if you catch a hot week, and I mean, he doesn't even have to gain 9 strokes on approach. He gains 5, which is very easy to do for Viktor Hovland. He's going to be worth the $10,800 investment that you made in him. So I think I'm going to go Viktor and then probably DJ for the prior course history and being the cheapest in the 10Ks. Then probably Xander just because he's the least projected owned. Morikawa and Thomas. By no means am I down on Thomas. It's just the fact that he's the most expensive and he's getting a lot of use. Putting someone at 11,000 really limits your flexibility on the price board. So that's really the only reason that he's 5th for me. Let's move to the 9Ks. In this range, you have the looks like the 3rd most projected owned player and maybe the 5th by about 0.1%. So a lot of haves and have-nots in this area. So you've got, let's see, 1, 2, we'll say 3, 4, 5, 5 players that are getting a whole lot of love in this range, and then you've got 2 guys that are not. So in this range, the third most projected owned player in the field is Shane Lowry. No surprise, I'm going to have Shane Lowry. So if you're seeing a little bit of a theme here, there is a lot of chalk up at the top of the price board, and I'm just going to have to eat it. I think they're just really good plays. I mean, Shane Lowry 5th in my rankings. Sam Burns 6th in my rankings. He's at 15.5% projected owned. So yeah, I mean, Lowry coming off of really good players. Sam Burns, your defending champion, has never missed a cut here. Sorry, I was on Paul Casey. Sam Burns never missed a cut here at Copperhead course. Yeah, there's just a lot to like with both of those players. Lowry, being Irish, his Open Championship win in the wind, in the miserable conditions, he should be okay this week handling the Florida weather. The 2 pivots, and I mean pure pivots in the area, Brooks is right under 7%, and Tommy Fleetwood is at right under 6%. Tommy Fleetwood rates out well. I'm a little hesitant only because the game generally doesn't translate well over here, but he does have enough to be excited about, especially with the low ownership. The par 3 scoring is fantastic. I will say great. Par 5 scoring is fantastic. He's top 20 in difficult courses. He scrambles well on difficult courses. Putts well on Bermuda. So he is completely Jekyll and Hyde according to the stat model and the stats that I put into it. He's either very good or very bad. The length of the par 4 is not good. His irons have been really bad, and he's most known for his irons, at least stateside. Opportunities gained on difficult courses, really poor. So while he does end up playing difficult courses well, you can see why. It's because he's scrambling his pars. He's not giving himself opportunities. So that's why I think Tommy Fleetwood might be a little deceptive at 17. He's more than capable of playing well, sure. I don't know if I'm going to hammer Tommy Fleetwood like I normally would a player that's top 20 in my stat model that's a pure pivot. I've got enough concern, especially with the irons. I mean, the irons just have not been good, and that's what he's most known for. Now you see, fantastic in the wind. He's from England. You would expect that. Very good when it's difficult, but he did gain 2.3 at the player, so there is a little bit of promise here. But before that, it had been bad. I mean, the Honda was very bad. Arnold Palmer was not good. The CJ Cup in the fall, not good. So, is the player's approach more akin to what Tommy Fleetwood is going to be moving forward, or was that just a good tournament? I don't know. I'm going to take the wait and see approach on Tommy Fleetwood. I'll probably have a little bit just because he is the least projected owned of the 10 and 9Ks, but I'm certainly going to be very cautious with it. Brooks, on the other hand, Brooks is a bit of an enigma. He never generally rates out well in my models, and when he does, he doesn't seem to perform well. Having said that, there's certainly a narrative this week with Brooks. It is all about difficult courses. Now, yes, he is only top 30 in difficult courses, but he gives himself plenty of opportunities. He scrambles well enough, and the putter isn't such an abject failure that this stat means nothing because he can't putt. Surprisingly, Brooks Koepka is not taking advantage of par fives. His irons have been pretty bad, and the par 3 scoring is woeful. So a little bit like Fleetwood in the sense that he is boomer bust, Jekyll and Hyde, except he's got a stat here and a stat here that aren't great, whereas Tommy Fleetwood was all or nothing essentially. But I do like Brooks a little bit, and I'm using the difficult course narrative. I mean, majors are difficult. Dwight plays difficult course as well. And while this isn't a major, it definitely yields scoring similar to majors. So that is the narrative I'm using when I'm putting Brooks in my lineups. Elsewhere here in the 9Ks, one of my biggest fades this week is in here. He's hovering right under 15%. It's Abraham Answer. And this is the player. Abraham Answer is one of two, I'll say, conditions, even though Abraham Answer is just a single player. So if Abraham Answer plays well, I'm going to lose. And then there's another condition that I'll explain later that I'm going to lose to. But I'm going to lose if Abraham Answer plays well. And it's very dangerous. This course suits well for Abraham Answer. He's got success here at this course. He's played it twice. He's averaging a 11th place finish, so almost a top 10. It's a very dangerous condition to lose to, but that's one I'm taking. One, you've seen the chalk that I'm gonna eat. I'm on Victor Hovland. I'm gonna use some DJ. I'm gonna use Shane Lowry and Sam Burns. I can't play every chalky person, or else I'm just not gonna have any differentiation from other contestants. So I'm choosing to eat other chalk up here and going to try and find some unique down lower in the price board. So that is one of the reasons that I am off of Answer is ownership. But the putting has not been good at all on Bermuda. We've seen that par 5 scoring is just very important here, and he has not been playing par 5s well in the last 24 rounds. And that's essentially back to this PGA Tour season and forward. The length of the par 4s haven't been good. Now, excellent on difficult courses. So, it's the same narrative as Brooks. If I'm using Brooks, I should use Answer for the narrative reason. The reason I'm more on Brooks than Answer is because purely of ownership. So I'm off of Answer. He's a lot like Brooks in the respect of he plays difficult courses well. Now Answer plays par 3s well, but Brooks plays the length of the par 4s well. I mean, it's, choose one. I'm choosing Brooks to play Brooks and fade Answer. Very well could be the wrong play. A lot of attention is being paid to Kokrak as well, and a lot of that is in the outright market. A lot of betting tickets that I have seen that people post online are using or have Kokrak in it, and it makes a lot of sense. He's 4 for 4 here, averages a top 20 finish, plays Copperhead very well. He's sitting at 15% ownership. When you see how many betting cards have outright wagers on Kokrak, and then you see 15%, it's a bit of a disconnect. So it sounds like people are choosing to have their exposure to Jason Kokrak in the form of an outright wager. 15% is high. By no means am I saying that he's a pivot, but as many betting cards as I've seen with Kokrak in it, to only see him at 15%, seems like they're taking the line that they want the exposure of an outright wager. So I like Kokrak. I like Fitzpatrick again this week. He burned me bad last week at the Players. I was all over Fitzpatrick. Did not play well. I'm going to more attribute that to the conditions. I mean, it was pretty clear you had to be on one side of the draw, and he wasn't on the right side. Other than the par 3s, though, I mean, the metrics are still there. He's still number 1 in par 5 scoring. Inside the top 20 in strokes gained total on difficult. He's top 20 on his irons, top 20 with the range of the par 4s. I mean, there's a lot to like with Fitzpatrick. He's basically right at Kokrak's ownership. Kokrak is sitting right at 15%. Fitzpatrick is a little bit under it. Other players in this area, let's see, you've got, who haven't we talked about? I think we've talked about all the 9s. Yeah, Casey's withdrawn. We talked about Lowry. We haven't talked about Louis and Terrell Hatton. So very quickly, Louis, a lot of ownership. He's very chalky, obvious reasons. He is the lowest of a lot of the guys we've talked about, but he loves this course. He loves this tournament. Let's see, he has 3 events, again, dating back to 2017. He's played it 3 times, average finish inside of top 10. Louis loves this course. The one that might be surprising a little bit is Terrell Hatton. His one time here at Valspar did not go well, and that leads to the second condition that I'm going to lose to. Anybody that has only played this course once, if they didn't play it well, I certainly took a note of it, but it is not a be-all, end-all. It very well could have been that they had a bad week. It happens. The putter is absolutely in fuego right now. I mean, he's coming off a top 15 at the Players. Yes, all of it predicated on the putter, but that's 2 straight weeks of in fuego putting on Bermuda. Even the Houston is Bermuda, and he gained in the fall. So the irons have been good enough. He's generally a good around the green player. He didn't have a good around the green game last week at the Players. Off the tee has never been his strong suit, and off the tee is quite mitigated here at the Valspar. I like Terrell Hatton a lot this week. Gonna have Terrell Hatton, and fortunately, he is not chalky. He's only sitting at 10% ownership right now. So in this range, I'm going to use Hatton. I'm going to use Lowry and Burns. I'm eating that chalk. I am going to tiptoe my way with Brooks. I'll have him a little bit on the difficult course narrative. Fitzpatrick, I like. So I'm using a lot of the 9Ks, which tells you kind of the teams I've been building is more balanced centric. Maybe doing a couple of upper 9s or going into, say, maybe DJ and Fitzpatrick, or DJ Brooks, just spitballing here. But those are the types of lineups that I've been building. Let's move into the 8s. In the 8s, it's a little bit more of the same here in terms of the haves and the have-nots. You have got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 getting a whole lot of use. No, 3. Sorry, that one's at 7,900. So you've got 3 players getting a whole lot of use, a couple with some decent amount of ownership, and then the rest are pivots. So the 3 majority owned projected players. First, Alex Noren, which is a shame. I was really hoping that he wouldn't be as highly owned as he's projected. There's a lot to like with Alex Noren this week. He doesn't give himself the most opportunities on difficult courses, but he does score well. His irons are playing. The putter is going great right now. Again, the players, he had a pretty bad Sunday, if I remember, and still almost top 25. This is coming off a top 5 at the Honda, another top 10 earlier in the season. I mean, he's been playing great. Look at the irons. The irons have progressively been getting better and better and better. The putter is, it's hot and cold. I mean, it's streaky. And you catch a week where it's this, you're in for quite a payday if you're using Alex Noren. So I was hoping he was going to be a little bit more, a little less owned, I should say. Doesn't seem to be the case. Again, a great player in the wind. Euro, you expect that. So Alex Noren's getting a whole lot of love. He is sitting at a little under 16%. Keegan Bradley is at 17%. Again, a lot to love there. Irons, great. Top 10 at the range of par 4s. He's good enough on the par 5s. Plays difficult courses well. Gives himself opportunities. Now, he's going to have to convert those opportunities because putting has always been Keegan's downfall. He's going to gain his fair share on irons. You just have to avoid the massive down weeks with the putter. He loses here, but he also lost off the tee. You give him a tournament where he is doing Keegan Bradley things, and if you just get field average from Keegan, he loses almost 2.5 at the Sony and still top 15s. Just imagine if that's field average. Again, it's this idea of hot and cold putters. When Keegan rolls it on a weekend, it's going to be really tough to beat because the irons are so darn consistent. He can scramble his way around if he has to, given that the putting is anywhere field average. There's a lot to like with Keegan, but at 17%, that's going to start looking into fade territory for me and hoping that the putter is just off. And then the other one in this range is Russell Knox. Again, the narrative of wind, plays difficult well. His irons have been just immaculate. Number 1 in the field at the length of the par 4s. So a lot to like with Russell Knox. So those 3 are getting a whole lot of love. You got Gary Woodland's getting a little bit at 11%. Bubba's getting a little bit at 10%. So your complete pivots in the area, Jason Day, he's at 3.5%. Yeah, I understand why. I'm just not there with Jason Day. Again, I'm looking over here at the previous performances. Yeah, there he is, Jason Day. The one time he's played it since 2017 was very poorly. Now, it didn't preclude me from using Terrell Hatton, but Terrell Hatton also rated second in the data model for me, not 62nd. So I'm off a day. Harold Varner III, a lot of people have been thinking about him in the outright market, but he's only sitting at 7.5% projected owned. While he doesn't have a bad stat, I don't know. I'm usually an HV3 believer. I don't know. It's a gut feeling. It's a gut feeling. Even though he's coming off a fantastic Players Championship, it's a gut feeling. And it could very well be wrong. But a lot of it's predicated that he's not good in the wind. He's generally not good when it's difficult, although he can be, but generally he's not the best when it's difficult. he's a bad putter. I shouldn't say bad. He's a poor putter anyway. So I'm not taking as much stock into this. I don't know. It's just it's a gut feeling. So I'm out on Varner. Elsewhere in the 8Ks, you've got Webb Simpson, who's at 8.5. I just haven't seen enough of Webb Simpson. He's struggled. If the old Webb Simpson comes back, Mr. Consistent, this is the course that should suit his eye. Doesn't require distance, requires precision. A lot of times his irons are very good, but I mean that tells you everything you need to know. He's only in the top 50, and generally for Webb Simpson to be successful, he needs to be in the top 15 or so. He is just not a person that's going to get it done off the tee, but he is very good when it's difficult. So I'm at Webb what I am with Tommy Fleetwood. I just have to see. I need to see more. I need to see more before I start investing again in Webb Simpson. You got Cameron Tringali, 5.5%. He's somebody that I'm going to be playing. I mean, number one in the field in scrambling when it's difficult. His irons are good. The par 3 scoring is good. Now, the par 5 certainly worry me. He doesn't give himself a lot of opportunities when it's difficult. But all of his umbrella stats here have been positive. He's gained off the tee, again muted. But he's gained on approach. He's gained around the green. He's gained putting. And yet he's missed the cut twice. So I'm thinking that something is going on there. That either he's having some bad luck or, again, maybe he's just, where'd he go? He's down here. Maybe he's just not converting these opportunities. It says that, he's good scoring. His par 3s are fine. The length of the par 4s are good. So something is not adding up. I'm hoping that this week it does. And that's another, I guess, condition I'll lose to. But that's it for the 8Ks for me. I'm leaning towards, well, I want to say Noren, but he's so widely owned. Keegan's a bit of a fade he is a fade for me just due to the ownership. Knox is as well. Like I said, I'm using Tringali in this range. I'm still not there with Woodland or Webb Simpson. Bubba. Yeah, I mean, the 8Ks is kind of like the fade area for me, really. If I'm not doing Tringali, I mean, maybe I squeeze in a Noren if I can afford taking some chalk, but there's not a lot in the 8Ks that I'm playing this week. Move to the high sevens. We have Hadwin, former champion in 2017. He's getting a lot of love at 16%. Bezadenhout, not played this course, but it seems like it would be a Christian Bezadenhout course. He's at 12.5. Aaron Wise, 10.5. Those three are the only ones that are getting any kind of attention in the upper sevens. And there's plenty of players I like in the upper sevens. Mckenzie Hughes, anytime it's a short game predicated course. Now, while around the green isn't a specific stat that I'm focusing on, he's very good when short game matters. He's pretty darn good when it's difficult. The irons are mediocre, to be fair. Just he has the one big performance at the RSM. Otherwise, they've been just about hovering around field average. The putting has always been, pretty solid. He'll have his down weeks, sure. But the around the green game is good. Even though we're not focusing on that statistic specifically. The scrambling, he's okay when it's difficult. The wind certainly does scare me a little bit. But I'm going with the difficulty, kind of like Brooks in that regard. Let's see. Molinari, I don't mind too much. He's proven in a couple of tournaments that he's somewhat back. He had really darn good players. He fell off terribly on Sunday. Or I keep saying Sunday, on Monday. 74. I mean, he was, and I think he was really hot on the front nine in round 4 and then really faltered. He was up there on the leaderboard early on in round 4 and then kind of faltered. I like Molinari a little bit this week. Vegas, Harmon just, I can't ever get there with Harmon. It's the irons, the par 5 and the par 3 scoring are really bad. I just can't get there with Harmon. He just burns me every time. Aaron Wise always rates out well in my model. So of the guys in the upper 7s, kind of like the 8s, I'm avoiding it. If I am dipping my toes in here, it's Hughes on that gamble of the difficult course narrative. Bezadenhout, he is a little bit chalky. He's at 12.5%, 13%, somewhere in there. But he's certainly less projected less owned than Adam Hadwin at the same price. So I'll use Bezadenhout, especially since he rates out better anyway. I'll use Wise, and I'll use some Molinari. Molinari is the pure pivot that I'll be using at 5% around here, even though he's probably not going to win the tournament at a reasonable 7,500. It frees up a lot of flexibility elsewhere on the price board. Moving to the low 7s, you have 3 players that are getting any attention at all, and it's middling, and then everybody else is a pretty big pivot. So the 3 guys, Martin Laird, again, narrative of wind. He's at 7,200. Yeah. So Martin Laird, he's been playing great. Great in the wind. Good when it's difficult. The Players was really bad. He's generally not the best of putters anyway, but he does have his spite weeks. So, and I mean, the irons have been very, very good lately, so there's a lot to like with Martin Laird. You've got Patton Kazire and Mito Pereira are the other 2 that are getting used. And I alluded to it earlier. Let's check Patton Kazire. I mean, number 3 in the field at the length of the par 4s. While he doesn't play the difficult courses the best, he certainly gives himself plenty of opportunities to do so. And the putter is good on Bermuda. So something's not adding up here that he's giving himself a lot of opportunities. He's fine with the putter. And why he's only 56th, just barely above field average in total performance on difficult courses. Something's not clicking there. So again, I'm going with some, like Cameron Tringali, basically. Something is going to have to change for these numbers to make sense, at least from an analytical perspective. Good on par 5 scoring. And I mean, he's been playing some good golf lately too. Past 2, honestly, the past 3 events have been premier. Now this is a clunker of a made cut, to be fair. But a top 35 at the Arnold Palmer, gains on approach, gains with the putter. That's a premier event. And then top 25 is the Players. His off the tee was really, really bad, but again, in those atrocious conditions, gained on approach, gained around the green, gained a massive amount on the greens. So if he has another hot week with a putter, and it's a big if, I give you that. But there's a lot to like, and he's fantastic in the wind. So if it is difficult, he's going to. When it is difficult, I shouldn't say if. When it is difficult, and it's going to be difficult this week, you can struggle. You missed the intro. I was. I don't know if I can pull off Gangsta. That's a little bit of a stretch. This is all about the repping your team for March Madness. Have a little bit of good-natured trash talk. I'm just showing support for the team that I root for. I don't think it's going to be a good March for them, but it's March Madness. You gotta rep your team. Let's see. Elsewhere in the low 7s, like I talk about him all the time, but I like Denny McCarthy again. You're on a course that emphasizes putting. You're going to want a really good putter. Denny McCarthy has shown time and time and time again he's a good putter, especially on Bermuda. He's great at par 3 scoring. He's good at the length of the par 4s. Now, the irons are always suspect, so he always leans on the putter. The reason why I think it's going to be okay this week is because this course, while irons are still important, they're not as important as most courses. It is all putting and short game related. So I like Denny McCarthy, especially at a fair or even a value price at $7,400. I like Denny McCarthy this week. Matthias Schwab, a lot of the same reasons. Very good on Bermuda. Instead of the par threes like McCarthy, Matthias Schwab's in the par fives. His irons are a lot better. He plays difficult courses well, a little bit better than McCarthy. There's a lot to like with Matthias Schwab. Schwab's sitting at 8%. Denny McCarthy's sitting at 7.5%. If you're trying to avoid the Martin, Laird, Patton, Kazire chalk, there's plenty of opportunities here to do it. Joel Damon, somebody I really like. He does not get enough credit for how well he plays when it's difficult. Gives himself a whole bunch of opportunities when it's difficult. If he has to scramble, it's not going to be good. So it's birdies or bogeys plus. But that's kind of what you want when you're coming down in the lower parts of the price board. You want to be able to find guys that can pop. And Joel Damon can certainly do that. Like I said, the irons have been good. Par fours of the length, good. Par fives are good enough. You'd like to see it a little higher, but they're good enough. So I like Joel Damon quite a bit this week. So there's a look at some of the players in the low sevens. Again, I'll highlight Denny McCarthy for the putting, Matthias Schwab for the putting, and the par 5 scoring. I will use Patton Kazire, even though he's somewhat chalky for the area. I'm going to use Patton Kazire. I really like where his game's at, and I'll ride the hot putter for one more week. And I like Joel Damon. So in the 6Ks, I'm going to be honest, I don't see a whole lot. I haven't been going too far down into the 6Ks. The lowest I've been going very comfortably, and I know you'll see some guys that are starred there in the top half of my rankings. The lowest that I've been comfortable going is Vaughn Taylor. And a lot of it is on the, I was going to say the putting metric. It shows that he's bad here. He's not that bad of a putter. I don't know why. I guess it's just Bermuda that he is. Let's see. There you go. So in the past 24, okay, sorry. I just saw it. So he has not been good with the putter recently, but he is not this putter. He is not. I mean, look at all these greens and these high greens. I mean, this same tournament last year, he gained over 9 strokes on the greens here at Valspar. He is not this putter. So I am thinking this is going to regress to the mean. And I'm not sitting here and saying I expect him to gain 9 strokes on the greens this week. I don't. But he is certainly, I don't expect him to be negative at all. Give me a week where he gains 2.5, and with the irons consistently, at least improving. The around the green game is getting a whole lot better. Off the tee has never mattered here, or at least not much. I like Vaughn Taylor this week. I really do. At 6,700, now that's the lowest I'll go. With the par 3 scoring, good enough. He's okay when it's difficult. He gives himself enough opportunities when it's difficult. So that is the one player that I really want to highlight for you all in the 6Ks. Now, he is the most chalky in this area, or in the 6Ks. He's just at 11%. I mean, that's where everybody else is going if they're coming into the 6Ks, but there's just not a lot here. There really isn't. I mean, I could mention Kramer Hickok. I've mentioned him before to a poor performance, and I think a middling one. The stats say he should be good. I mean, he plays difficult courses well, scrambles around him well. His irons have been good. For some reason, Kramer Hickok just didn't. He hasn't done it for me whenever I've put him in the lineup. The around the green game really does scare me this week. The putting has been again, hot and cold. He can gain a bunch, but I don't know. He is good in the wind. Bermuda is his preferred surface. I don't know. I'm not there with Kramer Hickok really. I might use him in a pinch if I have to really save some money on the price board, but so there's a look at the overall price board for you all. I keep alluding to it, so let's check the wind, and I'll reload it for you all just to double check. But Thursday, tomorrow, looks fantastic. High of 72, very little wind. But Friday, it looks like the wind is going to be picking up in the afternoon. And then Sunday, I mentioned it Monday night in the Data Dive show, that if the wind from Monday starts to creep into Sunday, it looks like it's starting to. So things could get interesting Sunday. But I want to highlight for you all Thursday, it's all calm, and then it really picks up in the afternoon. So if the wind projection stays the same, and things change almost seemingly hourly with weather, but if things stay the same, I am seeing, and I think a lot of the industry is seeing, quite a bit of a PM AM favor. Not dissimilar in terms of the players, where there was one half of the draw that just basically had the entire advantage. I don't know if it's going to be as extreme as the players, but I see a pretty significant PM AM split. So I brought up the leaderboard. Let's take a look at some of the guys that are at the PM portion for Thursday. Guys that we've kind of talked about or maybe have some interest in. Mito Pereira, a bit chalky in the low sevens, but Mito Pereira here. Let's see, Justin Thomas, Joel Damon, who I really like this week. There's Shane Lowry, Sam Burns, Gary Woodland, Xander, Martin Laird, Molinari, who I like, Hatton, who I like. There's Russell Knox, who's very, very chalky, but on the good side of the draw. Tommy Fleetwood, Harold Varner, Hadwin, a former champion, Schwartzel, a former champion. Let's see. Harmon, people are liking. I'm just not there. There's Vaughn Taylor. Like him for the reasons that I mentioned. Matthias Schwab, who I've mentioned. So fortunately, it seems like a lot of the guys that I've mentioned, and I'm just looking at this leaderboard in tee times with you live. I had not looked at it. Fortunately, it seems like quite a few of the guys that I mentioned are in the afternoon wave. So that makes me feel a little bit better. Again, if the wind projections hold up, you never know. So I'm going to close out of that, and I'm going to close out of Wind Finder. Let me switch the view for Excel for you all. Let's see. Move over there and bring up the Microsoft Excel rankings. I'm going to actually sort this by price before we get into making lineups. So I want to sort by column C. Don't mind me as I talk to myself. No, not that one. Salary. Largest, smallest. Haha. All right. So for those who play tiers contests, I'm not an expert in tiers by any means, but and all I can go by is what the projected ownerships are for classic lineups. So if the ownerships tend to change, or ownership percentages tend to change, wouldn't really know it. That's not my forte. But in Tier 1, you have Justin Thomas, Victor Hovland, and Colin Morikawa. For me, I'm going Victor Hovland, even though Morikawa is number 1 in my ranking. I'm going Victor Hovland on the spike performance. He gains basically nine strokes on approach last week. If the putter plays to even field average, maybe even less than field average, just don't lose 3 strokes on the greens. He's going to be pretty damn close to winning. Hot take. Victor Hovland's pretty good. Tier 2, Xander, DJ, Terrell Hatton, Sam Burns, and Brooks Koepka. Sam Burns, I imagine, is going to be pretty chalky just due to the prior course performance. I'm going to take Terrell Hatton. I really like what I've been seeing from him lately, and I think he'll be pretty unique in terms of tiers. Tier 3, Louis, Shane Lowry, Abraham Answer, Jason Kokrak, and I think that's it. Yeah, because Paul Casey withdrew. He was in this tier. So for me, I'm probably going Lowry's the chalky play, but I think he's the best play. Kokrak has very good past performance on this course. So if you want to lean on that narrative, Kokrak would be a good pick. Again, just because of the ownership from Classic, I'm fading Abraham Answer, although this course does suit him and he's played it well in the past. Tier 4, Tommy Fleetwood, Jason Day, Alex Noren, HV3, Harold Varner, Gary Woodland, Webb Simpson, Kevin Kisner. For me, it's between two players. If you believe in Tommy Fleetwood, this is a good course to take him, or put your stock into Tommy. Otherwise, it's Alex Noren, and he's chalky for a reason. Just loves this course. He loves playing in the wind. It's between the two Euros for me. Tier 5, Matt Fitzpatrick, Bubba, Keegan Bradley, Russell Knox, Cameron Tringale, Seabez, and Adam Hadwin. I'm probably taking Seabez just for the unknown. I think this course is going to set up well for him. Matt Fitzpatrick's going to probably be pretty chalky. At least I imagine so in tiers. Keegan Bradley's probably going to be chalky in tiers. Russell Knox, at least in the analytical community, he's going to be very chalky. So I'm going to take Seabez, hoping that he's pretty unique and that the course should suit him. Tier 6, Molinari, Johnny Vegas, Doc Redman, Mito, and Sahith Theegala. I think that's it. So for me, it's Molinari, kind of by default, really. I don't mind Mito, but I've liked what I've seen from Molinari recently. So with that, let's start building some lineups here and see if we can't figure out how to conquer the snake pit. Let me get adjusted here. Me and my gangsta beanie, as P referenced, considering that is the least accurate adjective for me. Let's see. Let's just use the most projected on player here, Victor Hovland. And then they're bottoming out at Vaughn Taylor, 11.2% in the 6Ks. If these are the boundaries that your fellow contestants are playing in, it's going to be very difficult for someone to squeeze, say, a Victor Xander or a Victor DJ. If they are truly going Victor Hovland, I would imagine they're coming down somewhere into the Abraham Answer range, maybe even lower. So, yeah, Answer, Kokrak. I'm just going to use Answer because it's a complete fade for me. I'm just trying to mimic some chalky lineups that I think might play. In the low sevens, you've got, let's see, who's getting a lot of love in here. Patton Kazire at 72, Mito at 12. Let's see, Laird. Let's use Mito. I know he's the most chalky, but this course again should suit him fairly well. Let's see. We've got two players to average at 8,000. So at 8,000 is Cameron Tringale. He's not getting a lot of love. But at 81 is Russell Knox, if I could spell. And then 79 is Bezadenhout. So there's what I imagine would be a fairly chalky, balanced team. Sitting at 14.5%, that's pretty gross. That is really damn chalky. If you're trying to build a team around that, again, the one player that's not getting used or used as much, he's still getting used, is Xander at 13%. For me, if I'm coming into the upper tiers, I'm going to go Terrell Hatton. Again, I really like what I've seen from Terrell Hatton. Coming off of pretty good players, loves playing in the wind. I'm going Terrell Hatton. Number 2 in my data model, also just above 10%. He might not have the winning upside that a Hovland or a Morikawa or a DJ have, but what he lacks in, expected win percentage, or however you want to phrase that, his probability to win the tournament, I think is more than made up for in the lack of ownership, at least compared to the other guys. And because I have started at 98, not in the 10Ks, I don't have to go down to Vaughn Taylor if I don't want to. If I am willing to really go down there, I mentioned Kramer Hickok at 65. I don't feel great about it. And then Vaughn Taylor's at 67. I mean, he's really, really chalky. Pat Perez is somebody I don't hate at 6,900. But honestly, because I've got the savings from just going to Hatton or starting the team at Hatton, I'm probably not going much further down than maybe 71 or 7,200. So I'm going to bottom out at Joel Damon, who I'm really, really high on this week. He plays difficult courses extremely well. And because I'm starting at Terrell Hatton, and I'm using a semi-pivot off of Vaughn Taylor, even though he's at 400 more, I can take a little bit of chalk here. I can take a Shane Lowry or a Sam Burns if I really, really want to play a good play. I've mentioned how I like Denny McCarthy for the putting this week. And that still gives me the same 8,000 to play around with. I've been avoiding the 8Ks really. I've been using Tringali, and then we'll come to the high 7s and maybe Aaron Wise or Mckenzie Hughes. So there is a different take on a balanced lineup, and it is less than 10% projected owned. And you're not having to go down into the 6,000s for a Vaughn Taylor or a reach of Pat Perez or whoever you like in the 6Ks. If you're trying to build a balanced lineup, if you're trying to build a stars and scrubs, boy, I don't know how you're going to do so without really digging into the 6Ks or going, say, 2 stars and 4 scrubs. I'm just not seeing it. So, I mean, Vaughn Taylor, I'll use Hickok only because the data says he should be okay. I mean, he's at 5%, so he's getting a little bit of attention. And of course, Vaughn Taylor, who's getting a lot of attention down there. Let's see. You're probably going to have to go in the low 7s still to fit the stars and scrubs that we're talking about. Only because I used Mito earlier. Let's use Pat Gazire. He is getting some love, and I'm going to use Pat Gazire this week. So now you're at 9,800 per. This is still, kind of a Hatton, Lowry, Burns type, if that's the stars that they're trying to go. Lowry, Sam Burns. That gives you 10-3, which is exactly Xander. He's not getting as much play as maybe someone like DJ. That's at 12.5%. And again, that's using Kramer Hickok. I don't know if a lot of people are going to be comfortable going that far down. So, if anyone out there watching has some people that they want to try to build in or take a look at trying to fit in some lineups, I'll hold it open for a couple of minutes. I knew this show would probably go a little long. Was hoping for a little bit of banter back and forth on the. Sorry, let me close that out. On the March Madness, you can see where my allegiance runs in college basketball. If I'm not cheering on my alma mater in D3, but yeah, that's a look around what I'm seeing this week for the Valspar. Victor Hovland DJ. I'm probably going to use more DJ than Victor only because one of the price and two the less percent ownership. I mean 15% still quite a bit. But I like Terrell Hatton in the 9Ks. I like Fitzpatrick in the 9Ks. He's a bit more chalky. Don't be afraid to take a flyer on Brooks going around the difficult course narrative. So that's going to do it for the DFS Tactics show for the Valspar this week. Again, thanks for tuning in. P, always great to see you in chat. I know you normally join, but I certainly appreciate it. Good luck with all of your contests and with your brackets, and hopefully you have some fun. They're able to get some good food and watch a lot of basketball. So for all of your contests this week at the Valspar, for all of your brackets this week and this month for March Madness, and for any wagers that you have made at the Valspar for this weekend and every weekend, may all your bets be profitable.